Where is the wise man? Where is the scholar? Where is the philosopher of this age? Get down! Baltimore!
What are they getting?
Everything out of me. They gonna get a Super Bowl out of me. Believe that. Believe that.
All right, welcome on back to another edition of the Baltimore Beatdown podcast. It is Tuesday, February 14th, 2023. My name is Jake Luke, and I'm joined on my screen by Spencer Nathaniel Schultz. How's it going, pal?
Going quite well. The Ravens hire Todd Monken. The Chiefs win the Super Bowl. And it's been a fun couple days here as we sail on into the offseason.
Yeah, certainly. It was a little bit of a longer wait for that offensive coordinator. It looked like other teams were really getting that thing out of the way early, but they all had other targets in mind. It felt like the Ravens had maybe some interest on the happenings of the Super Bowl and then the immediate happenings after it. It sounded like Brian Johnson of the Eagles was a target of theirs, but the Colts go ahead and snap up Shane Steichen, who actually was the Eagles offensive coordinator. So now it sounds like Brian Johnson going to take that job. So it came down to a couple names. I think it came down to Dave Canales. I think it came down to Todd Monken as a couple other guys that got multiple interviews. And then Eric sleeping with Bieniemy, they seem to be really interested in too. But for whatever reason that doesn't happen, they go with Monken out of Georgia, who has plenty of NFL and college experience. And, I don't know if I'd say it was a hot commodity, but a lot of people seem impressed by this hire, which I'm among them. So
definitely. And Monken, someone that has been around the block, has reinvented himself. And the most fun part is that wherever he goes, it's more of him putting a fun twist on what that team is or what that system is or what they've previously done. You see in Georgia's play calling, for instance, they retained a lot of the kind of single back run game and some of the condensed stuff that they were doing successfully previously. Some really glowing and nice articles on The Athletic if you want to read more about Monken and kind of more of the tea leaves stuff and more of the, I guess, media talking point type things that really painted a good picture of what he did and how he isn't just going to come in and be the big dick swinging and tell everybody how it is and it's his way or the highway or all of those kinds of things. It seems like he enjoys finding ways to adapt or improve or add his own sauce to the take that previously was. And I think that will bode well for a Ravens team that had really good elements offensively and just needed more diversity and needed more ability to have all the tools in the tool belt for any situation at any time. And Monken seems like someone that really always, especially at Georgia, found a way in the run game or in the pass game or in certain matchups to really just attack matchups and attack schematic issues defensively and force rule changes and things like that. So I know a big thing is like, oh, well, he had such amazing talent at Georgia. I mean, guys, he's playing LSU and Alabama and Florida. Like, sure, Georgia is the best of the best, but like, what? Bama isn't. They beat Bama. He beat them in the playoffs. Like, it's not some crazy thing. Like the Eagles' talent disparity between them and the Texans is not insanely different than what was going on in the SEC between Georgia and freaking, Missouri or Vanderbilt or something like that. Like there's still ballers. So I think those things are a little overrated. I don't know. I'm just excited for someone that feels like a little bit more of a bend into the right direction as opposed to, Roman's offense had a lot of answers in certain ways, but it felt like there was a long process to earning snaps in Roman's offense and a long process to mastering his offense. So I think a team that has had that level of detail required and had that path to now maybe have things be a little quicker and simpler and opened up while still maintaining some of what they did and bringing in a more wide pass game, a quick game, getting the ball out, being able to go under center and boot and get the ball out of Lamar Jackson's hands a little quicker will make sense. Monken is just going to be a little more balanced. And I think the big receiver talky stuff can finally hopefully be put to a bed here soon.
Yeah, and I think that's a big part of it for me. Like I made the point on Twitter that Roman had certainly had his issues. It was time to go, but I don't know. I still, think he got a little bit of a short end of the stick when it came to the wide receiver position for the most part in his time here. So I don't know. Like that's something that is going to have to work itself out, and we're going to see how that plays out in relation to this hire. But I mean, talk about getting the most out of talent. He had all the talent, and he made the most out of it in college. And I'm really interested to see how that translates. And you talk about a guy that was using multiple tight ends there with Brock Bowers, and I forget the other kid's name. But yeah, there was other talent there too. Lad McConkey. I don't think he's declared for the draft or anything like that, but he got the most out of a Stetson Bennett, who was basically nobody, right? I mean, so it's a thing where, and people were also making the point of like, oh, is this a Lamar thing? Is this not a Lamar thing? I think it's a thing where he has all this experience and he's dealt with all these different types of players, not only over the course of his career, but in the last couple of years. I think he could be a good fit for just about anything. And it is sort of that perfect marriage of wanting to move forward into a different direction, but not throwing the baby out with the bathwater, especially in relation to your current personnel with Likely and Andrews, Kolar all on the roster. I think you have good tight end talent that he's going to be able to make use of there, but you almost have to improve at wide receiver by default. And I think he's going to do a good job making use of whoever they bring in, as well as running backs out of the backfield, who he does a good job of getting targets. And it's not just that, like he spreads the ball around his entire offense. I was reading one of those Athletic articles that talked about just how good of a job he did of diversifying his targets and who he was spreading the ball around to. And it just seems like a guy who, to your point there, it's almost like the Flubber thing. Like he's going to come in and be able to adapt to a situation. And the Ravens have an idea of what they want to be and who they want to be. I think they are maybe looking in the mirror a little bit and saying we're going to improve that. But I do like the fact that this does seem to be a guy who's going to be able to adapt to it. And for like whatever he is, late 50s, early 60s coordinator, to have that adaptability, I think is something good. I was, pretty happy to read about that kind of thing, because you would see a guy like that and automatically think, oh, set in his ways, doesn't relate to the players. Maybe he's not going to relate to the players all that well, but I don't think he's going to be like one of these hard ass guys that's going to, make them not want to play for him. So yeah, all around, I really like it.
For sure. And I like the nuance of going back down into the college ranks and exploring how to utilize the different hashes, exploring more new schemes and seeing what is trickling through at that level. And even into the SEC notoriously kind of shifts last. Like, for instance, Georgia somewhat still today is like the last of the Mohicans. They have somewhat refused to turn into like a straight spread team and navigate in that sense. Like Alabama moved first, they bucked first and are exactly that now. So I like the idea of going back into the college ranks, tinkering, being able to get some new sauce, and then go bring that back to the NFL and adapt it. It feels like he'll be able to incorporate some of the spacing concepts of college football, the mesh and the ways to utilize the width of the field and play in that sense a little bit more so. And I'm excited. This run game will look different, but it's someone who will understand what John Harbaugh wants to do and add and grow it and make it flourish in the right way. And you see tons of quotes in those articles in The Athletic. The name of the journalist is escaping me who covers the Georgia Bulldogs football team for The Athletic, but he has a lot of quotes about, hey, you have to control the run game in order to control the game. You have to be able to make defenses respect that. If you're one-dimensional, you're dead. So just seems like the word I saw used by a former Georgia offensive lineman was pragmatic. Seems like a very pragmatic person that understands there are solutions in every sense of offensive football. And, we can speculate and do a lot of things. I'm not sure. It's kind of tough. I think he adapts. So it's hard to say, this is what they did at Georgia. This is what he did at Tampa. This is what he did at this place. Here's who he coached for. It feels like you become a little bit more of a jack of all trades over time. And that's his direction. I don't think his offense is like some system and it's, Air Coryell or, a power RPO game or West Coast or any of those. I think it has elements of a lot of those things. And that's what I've said on this podcast for a long time. The best offense is every offense. If you can run a little bit of everything and grow it over time, then you're going to be in a good spot. You're going to have answers to the test. You're going to be able to spread the ball out and make defenses do what they're bad at. That is the key to sports in general as a coach. Make teams do things that they're uncomfortable doing or don't have an answer for. And I think Monken is one of the guys that has those tools in the tool belt. I think some misconceptions too. Like he didn't call plays in Cleveland. He wasn't a part of the Freddie Kitchens monstrosity in that sense. You can kind of hear his remarks on how he feels like that time was very strange and he didn't get the job done that he wanted to do, takes the accountability. Gives me kind of Marty Morenweg vibes, the way he talks, just like he drinks and like cusses and is like more fun to hang out with probably for more than like 10 minutes than Marty Morenweg. So I think he's going to be a fun personality on top of it all. And I'm sure there's people who are upset and want some 37-year-old or something like that. But I think, and kind of against your point, you were like, oh, you know, he might not be able to relate to the players. I don't know. The way he talks feels like it's relatable to anyone. Yeah,
I think that video Garnett posted, I don't know if you saw it, but that was really good. It was like a compilation of all the things that he or is sort of a compilation of him speaking to his philosophies a little bit. And when I say relate, like, I mean, like, he's not going to be talking to them about like, I don't know, like pop culture. Like, I think he will relate to them as a human being really well. And I think, like, to your point that you're making, we can speculate on all the X's and O's stuff, and you and Cole are much more qualified than me or anyone listening to this to do so. But ultimately, like, at the end of the day, your resume gets you in an interview room. You hire a person, right? Like, and like, this guy seems like a really well put together person, and I think he's going to be impressive. He's going to be able to command a room, and he is going to be relating to the players in a, you know, in a good way. Like I said, maybe not in like talking about, hey, what'd you do this weekend, but I think they're going to respond really well to him and his leadership style, just based upon the couple clips I've seen. I really like that, and I like the fact that he succeeded doing it at both levels, because you talk about being in the NFL, he was probably dealing with like guys in their mid-30s when he was in Cleveland and Tampa Bay, and then he goes to Georgia and he does just as well, if not better, dealing with guys in their teens and 20s. So, you know, just a lot of different experience, and just seems like a guy who's going to bring the temperature down in regards to this offense a little bit. And it is going to, like I said, I'm going to keep coming back to this, Jimmy's and Joe's. You gotta get more talent at wide receiver. Everyone knows that. It's the thing that we're always going to harp on. We might as well have a moratorium on it at this point, but you're going to need to bring that kind of stuff in before anything is going to be, you know, some sort of looked at as some sort of slam dunk. You know, all the pieces matter. And I think they got a good piece today, but the puzzle is not complete.
Definitely. And like you said, you know, going back to college, being around younger players will refresh. It will change your expectations of younger guys or, you know, players in general. So to have that buttoned up and that lightened up, I'm sure he's pumped, man. And I think a lot of people are like, why would he want to, a lot of the notion was, why would he want to leave Georgia? He was the highest paid, I think, assistant coach in college football. I think he had a $2.1 million salary. And it's because he's 57 years old. He jokes about how he's old a lot, from what I can tell. And recruiting, especially in the transfer portal and the NIL and all that stuff, sucks. It is a 50 times more draining, exhausting time commitment to coach in college and at that level, and to be doing it, you know, through the national championship game well after most teams are. Like,
and he's handling a lot of that for Kirby in the position that he's in too. Like, a lot of the head coaches aren't doing what Jim Harbaugh does and, you know, go to the recruit's house and stuff like that. He's like the face of the offense. He's got to do a lot of that crap. So, yeah.
Definitely. So, and I think that's why Georgia will end up going with Bobo and continue on, and it's familiar, and I'm sure he was involved in that process. And I think that's what they all thought was going to happen. It feels like, from what I've read, Monken always wanted to go back to the NFL. It was in theory like, hey, let's help Kirby update what he's doing a little bit and get them over the hump of being this dominant dragon defensively that can never conjure up the potent enough offense. And it feels like he just made those slight little tweaks in how to ease the burden on the quarterback and how to have a really well thought out utilization of tight ends and backs and receivers and all those different concepts. So I think it'll be balanced. You know, I don't know that he's going to reinvent the wheel. I think he's going to do the opposite. I think he's going to do kind of common sense, easier, simpler ways to attack defenses. So a lot of it's going to be, you know, going back, watching, saying this is what it looks like, this or that. But there's a good example today where it's like, oh, there's this really awesome play he ran against Bama in 2021 where it was like a half sweep reverse. And I've studied that play before. It's something Georgia's run over like the last decade. So I think that's a good example that he likes to keep the good and tweak what needs to be changed a little bit. Some of the mentions of things I saw were like, oh, he started throwing he threw against heavier personnel, like 8-man boxes, like 3% more and then 4% more. And it's just like slight little adjustments to come to balance. I think he is the ultimate balance coordinator. And I think John Harbaugh is the ultimate desired desire of balance as a head coach for someone who isn't, involved in the play calling process too much. But I think it's a good marriage between Harbaugh and Monken. They seem like they'll have a good relationship. It'll be a good fit in Baltimore. And much to Harbaugh's point, Josina Anderson goes out, and I do think she's getting a little rosy with some of the stuff she's saying, but that, it was the most desired play calling opportunity left. And that's the other interesting part. Like, Roman and Harbaugh's coordinators, like, Roman's not going to call, or Harbaugh's not going to call plays. Harbaugh's not going to take that over. You will get a level of autonomy. Someone who was in college doesn't have to recruit. So I'm sure Monken's pretty happy, and I'm sure it's going to be a functional relationship for sure, and a nice breath of fresh air from such a drawn out saga. And I'm sure fans are going to feel a lot more, I don't know, won't think about it as much. I think it's just going to be like, there's not going to be, I feel like he's not polarizing. There's not going to be some fast forward a year from now. It's not like, fuck Monken, or, oh my God, Monken is the genius. It's just going to be easy. It's an easy fit.
Some people, yeah. I mean, I saw a little bit of that on Twitter today, but that's just where the fan base is at this point. It's got people that are dug in one way or the other. And I mean, that's totally fine. Like, I have nothing that's going to say to you that's going to convince you that this is the right hire, because I don't know if it's the right hire at this point. I don't think anyone does. I don't think the Ravens do. I think we'll find out, but I don't know. I have a good feeling about it. And yeah, you mentioned some good things there. He, throwing in, what people would perceive to be running situations, running against what people would perceive to be a passing situation, kind of catching defenses off guard, having a good feel for situational play calling. That was another point that I was kind of talking about on Twitter. Like, it just felt like, as much as Roman did a lot of good things, that was one thing that he just really struggled with. And I think, like, priority number one here, I don't care who the quarterback is next year, this procedural, issues that they've been dealing with for the last several seasons in regards to substitutions, and then how they cause false starts and procedural penalties and all that crap, that's got to go out the window. That is day one stuff. We're going to have to do away with that. And just having a better feel for, game flow. I think he showed that very well in the last couple of years with Georgia, definitely. And I'll be interested to see how it translates to the NFL. And so, yeah, that's another thing that caught my eye. That I think is an encouraging sign, if nothing else.
Certainly. And Monken is a former quarterback himself. So the burden, I think those things all tie into him wanting to ease the burden on the quarterback and on the offense, and understanding how the quarterback can utilize the run game or utilize the quick game or rolling them out or whatever it may be to make things easier on offense. I think he's going to simplify things very much so. And whether it is Lamar Jackson or not, but if it is Lamar Jackson, the Ravens need simplicity. Like, they grew too long and hairy and complex. And there were, when 2019, it was like, oh, they changed all their play calls to one-word calls. And that's what Mark Ingram said. He was like, oh, we have a ton of one-word calls now. Like, the play sheet is made up of one-word calls. That's easy. And then it felt like that was not the case over the last year or two. It feels like they grew back into the complexity and the orchestration and the show to the nth degree. So having the familiarity to be that way and be detail-oriented in that sense and know what that takes is nice for an offense. But then suddenly, when you're not fighting the clock, you're not making substitutions every single play and all of those things, it's a nice reprieve. So I think the shitty parts of what Roman did can linger into knowing how to operate at a more complex level when you need to or if you want to. So it's just toning it down a little bit. It's just balancing things out. And I know Monken has said, several times that he is a quarterback. He was a quarterback. He views the game through that lens, through the passing lens, through that prism. So just curious to see how it ends up transforming in. And I know that pretty unanimously there's been a lot of praise, and that doesn't always resonate. And, for it, like, who was just in the Super Bowl, Sirianni, he had a joke of a press conference. Everyone said he was underqualified and all that shit. And so that, we don't know what's going to happen is what I'm getting at, but it's a familiar guy. Like, he's proven already. It isn't some volatile, risky thing. And I don't know that the Ravens could afford to enter the territory of a hit or miss situation. And you can call it safe, but because he was in college, because he was at Georgia, because, like, it's not some stale dude. It's someone that just got, like, revitalized basically in college and was viewing the game through an entirely different prism than, regurgitating NFL coaches, or like hiring like a Gus Bradley, for instance, who's like, all right, he's going to get us to being like mediocre plus at least. And we'll just keep hiring this guy over and over and over again. So I think it's a different flavor than that, but I don't know,
it's
man.
Also a different flavor. Like I think some of the people that maybe have some, they were kind of throwing the same old Ravens thing out there for hiring it, an older dude. I think they just want a young, good looking guy because they think it'll be like a shot in the arm, like a Shanny or like a McVay type guy, which, we were advocating for that with Slowick. They sounded like they reached out to him, but it was either Houston or San Francisco. He wound up going to Houston. But like if they hired a Zach Robinson or a Canales, let's say they had like one good year where they're like in the top 10, they're getting hired right away. I don't think Monken is really a threat to have that happen. He might go.
That's like the best case scenario though. Like that you were so good that, you have the system in place, what you're good at, all of those things. That's a good problem to have. Yeah,
no, it is. But I think of like the fucking Steelers who always had good coordinators and they would just never get hired away. Like it was just so frustrating. Like you have these guys like Dick LeBeau, and I guess Todd Haley kind of trailed off.
They're happy. Monken, in his words, he seems happy with what he is, where he is, and just wants to win. And, he knows he's no spring chicken.
Yeah, exactly. And like maybe a big college job comes open and he takes that. But I couldn't really see an NFL team with the way that the league is trending with some of these head coaching hires want to hire up a guy like that. So it seems like you've got a good long-term investment here. He's 57. I just looked it up. So he's probably got another decade or so at least in him. And I don't know. That's another plus for me.
Yeah, I could see this being a marriage that lasts maybe. Who knows? The Harbaughs are insane. They're crazy people. They are crazy football people. So maybe John isn't as tired as we think and is just an older guy, and that's all. And this is all he knows and all he wants to do. The Harbaughs are a coach family, and God knows Jack coached until he was pretty damn old. But I could see this potentially being, a marriage that lasts for as long as the remainder of Harbaugh's tenure in Baltimore is. So
maybe longer.
For sure. And I don't know. The Lamar Jackson aspect of it feels like a decent hire in the sense of the quarterbacks that he's worked with, Jameis Winston, Baker Mayfield, JT Daniels, and Stetson Bennett, like all guys that needed help. And if you don't have Lamar Jackson for some reason, he's used to that. He's used to working with a younger guy, working with a guy that needs to get the mental aspects of the game up. So I think it's comfortable in that sense. And I'm not sure that, Lamar Jackson was really studying. He didn't know who Rashad Bateman was. I'm not sure if he's really grinding Georgia tape or anything like that, or going back to the 2016 Bucks, but feels like it's someone who's a little goofier and doofier and likes to have fun and likes to win. And I think that's kind of how Lamar Jackson is. So I think they could have a fun little relationship too. And Monken's never had someone that is what Lamar Jackson is, like someone that can process at a high level and is easily by far the most insane athlete that he's had at quarterback. And he has all these little tinctures and little recipes. So I think this is a cool marriage if they retain Lamar Jackson. If they don't, then Monken's used to building it up. And I'm sure, whatever the Ravens are planning up, I'm sure Monken was bought into that conversation, as opposed to, I guess his other option looked like Tampa or staying in Georgia. So it had to be something that felt appealing to him.
I gotta bookmark this for if Lamar stays and he has like a big week one, let's say he like throws 4 touchdowns and like 2 of them are to Bateman. It'll be like at Todd Monken, at Rashad Bateman, and it's the Shaq. I owe you an apology. I wasn't really familiar with your game.
Yeah. Yeah. Josina had the tweets of like, Lamar was heavily the discretion of Lamar. Lamar was probably like, get me somebody who fucking will be good. I don't know. I don't know that the level of involvement there was some profuse thing. It just seems like a nice little, oh yes, Lamar was involved and blah, 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 blah.
It's also not his job.
It's not his fucking job at all.
Get me a good coordinator. Like I'm not supposed to build this offense. I'm supposed to run it. Like you want me to be the quarterback, you hire that guy to be the coordinator. Let's just do it that way.
Definitely. And Mark here in the comments does have a good point from a locker room perspective. Des Bryant and RG3's praise bodes well for Lamar Jackson and wide receivers liking Monken. Yeah, those guys know whatever the downside was and what maybe the Ravens didn't have and needed and things of that nature more than most would. So RG3 seems to kind of praise the Ravens whatever they do. So I'm not sure, but Des Bryant's been a little bit more vocal about the negatives of what Roman was doing and what Lamar was in. So, shit, man. I don't know. Todd Monken. It feels like I like saying his name. That sounds right. Todd Monken, John Harbaugh, Baltimore Ravens. All those things sound right.
Yeah, sounds good. And let's, not for nothing, you called this, 2 weeks ago? So, yeah, very good. Very good job by you. Feeling things out. The painting was a gift, Todd. So is that all we got on Monken?
I think so.
Cool. I guess we can talk a little Super Bowl. Great game. I got the chance to watch it with one of my best friends who's a Eagles fan. And that was a great time until the end. It just turned into
AJ Brown said it when they kicked a field goal and the Chiefs didn't. I mean, that second Bolton touchdown was a touchdown. The Chiefs were just they're lethal, man. They were just too comfortable playing from behind. That's why they were going to die trying, and it was wild.
I think we both picked them to win beginning of the year, right? I know I had them over the Packers.
I think that was me. I don't think you had the Packers.
Oh yeah, I think I had Ravens going to the AFC Championship game, losing to the Chiefs, and then I think the Packers were going to make it 2, and they lost. I would have to pull the spreadsheet up, which I'm not going to do.
I think I had the Packers, maybe winning it. I know I had the Chiefs. I can't remember. I think I had Chiefs over Packers. I know it was Chiefs Packers though, and that was my word. The rest of my preseason predictions all were in pretty good shape. I think I nailed most of the playoff teams and divisions lined up pretty much like I thought they would. But definitely, and was interesting. I think the whole narrative of like Travis Kelce saying people doubted them, like people were fucking doubting them. Everyone was saying the Chargers might go undefeated. All of the talking heads, and I think the sports books were the ones that didn't. I think the Chiefs were still like 3rd or 4th best odds, but for a team that was coming off of 4 straight championship game appearances, they weren't the odds-on favorite. They weren't the Bills were the favorite.
I think it's like, nobody, or some people thought you weren't the odds-on favorite to win the Super Bowl. Is like nobody believes in us.
People were saying it wasn't their division. There was a lot, and it wasn't everyone. There were certainly, it wasn't like everyone was like, oh, like there wasn't some consensus, but there's never some consensus. So I think that people have gone a little overboard in that sense. But I mean, the essence of the Chiefs having fun is what everyone needs to take away from them, I think. And that was like their big halftime thing was like, hey, we're not having the fun we normally do. Let's make this fun. Let's make it like they didn't.
Patrick Mahomes.
They don't get into panic. They just get into like fun mode.
Patrick Mahomes is just in like a cryogenic chamber filled with Toradol, just like giving a thumbs up. Like, let's go have fun. That looked bad. That looked really bad.
The noise he made, they just released the clip of him getting hurt. He truly at his core, like, Sammy Watkins is the Lizard King. He is the Muppet King. If you unzip Patrick Mahomes, he literally is Kermit. Like he said, the noise he made was like, ah! It was insane. Go watch that clip. I think I retweeted it.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to check that out. But yeah, man, that was a really good game. I think it was unfortunate the way that it ended the way it did. I think you had some takes on, and you and I are usually both kind of this way where it's like people got to calm down with like we were robbed of this and that kind of stuff.
I mean, my God, man.
I wish they had kept the flag in the pocket. And I thought back to, it kind of gave me it made me think even more that we walked out of Super Bowl 47 with the Homelander meme, like all right, like laughing, cause that really was sort of a throwback to Jimmy Smith versus Crabtree. And I think you could have held it in your pocket. And I wish they did, based upon the fact that it felt like they were letting them play pretty much all game. And then that's the one, and that hurts, but it just,
I don't think they were letting them play. I don't like, and I think that the camera angles and the slow-mo was so disingenuous. And there was I feel like so many people walked it back the next day once they saw the other stuff. Juju ran a double move. James Bradbury was flat-footed and Juju couldn't run away from him. He completely stopped him from running. And it was a hold. People were like, oh, it was an uncatchable ball, like all that kind of stuff going on. It was a hold. He prevented the receiver in front of the ref with no coverage, and the ball went there. Like, I don't know. And it's like, not in that moment, but it's like, okay, so what? You're not going to call anything on anyone in that moment? The whole we're robbed thing of like, oh my God, we always need it to be this story and this thing. It's like it's just like, whatever. It's just this average fan thing of like everything has to be high scoring and entertaining and everyone needs a chance. And it needs to be the Bills Chiefs divisional game over and over and over and over. And I just want touchdown, touchdown, touchdown. Like, don't fucking commit the crime if you can't do the time.
Yeah,
and James Bradbury himself. I don't know. Whatever.
He came out and said, "Yeah, I held him." So, yeah, I certainly get that. I just think it was an unfortunate way for it to end, even if it was a hold. Like, I think it's unfortunate Bradbury held because I don't think that ball was going to be catchable. They had rushers in Mahomes' face, and he just kind of hawked it up. So,
the other lesson is, if you are, you should never not have 3 timeouts in a close game at the end of a Super Bowl.
Dude, I knew that was going to happen too. I knew fucking Reed was not going to have one, and I had a feeling the Eagles were going to find a way to burn one too. And of course, it comes down to that. These guys gotta tighten this stuff up, especially in a Super Bowl. Like, come on.
Exactly. When Reed challenged, I can't remember what Reed challenged in the second half, or whatever it was. Maybe it was the Goddard catch, another close one. Yeah. That was close, and the freeze framing of it. But, oh, my God, Juju Smith-Schuster gets yanked on, can't run away, and into the end zone, and it's not a penalty. But that was definitely lining up for quite a time. I don't know. It was a peculiar game in many ways, but it was exciting. I had myself an absolute night on the Super Bowl. I ended up maybe taking my pants off because I won $21,000 on a little underdog fantasy, so I was pumped about that. Ended up doing a keg stand after that. And for most of the game, I was in first place on underdogs for probably a 45-minute period with a $200,000 prize. And I was sitting there with my entry at $200,000 for so long. If McKinnon would have not gone down, I probably would have won 75 grand. So it was a fun game. I feel like this was it was just a fun Super Bowl. It was a fun matchup. It was high scoring enough, but of course not enough for everyone to be happy. I don't know.
What a thrill that would have been for you to pay off my car and student loans. That would have been great. But yeah, I had a couple close too. Like if Mahomes had scored a rushing touchdown, I think I would have walked away with a couple stacks. Because I had him and Hurts over 100 yards, and then they each get a rushing touchdown. Of course, Hurts gets fucking 3, and Mahomes can't get the 1. That was definitely a little bit of a long shot, but man, they got close here and there, and that was a fun one.
The fumble from Hurts was just insane.
That was weird. Yeah, it looked like the one that Mahomes had a couple weeks ago, where he just sort of looked like Jameis in the Rose Bowl, the Kramer. He just throws his arms up and the ball just flies behind him. Always interesting to see those happen.
And for Nick Bolton to almost have a second one, there were definitely almost some heavy Nick Bolton MVP payouts. I wonder if he would have gotten it if he had 2 touchdowns. I feel like it's almost impossible not to if you have 2 defensive touchdowns in a game.
I don't know if Malcolm Smith had 2. He definitely had the 1.
No, he just had 1.
Yeah, okay, but he still got it. So yeah, I mean, if you get 2 as a defensive player, you probably should, especially because like Mahomes' stats weren't great. I think he definitely should have won it, and I'm glad that he did. But yeah, if Bolton had gotten those 2, then I think that would have been enough.
Definitely. And Isaiah Pacheco, such a fun player. The Chiefs really just hit them with everything, man. And I think we overrate the little in motion, the fast motion back stuff. Like that was more shitty by the Eagles. It was smart by the Chiefs, but it was like the other teams beat them with that this season. And some of the drives they had, Nate Tice did some good breakdown. Some of the drives they had, they're running trap, they're running power, they're running RPOs, they're just throwing the kitchen sink at you. It's been fun. I don't hate Mahomes. I don't hate the Chiefs. I'm happy to say I hated them very much so very early. I think Mahomes has kind of calmed down. The main factor was him chicken head cockeye roostering all the time and complaining about calls. I feel like he's gotten past that. So
I think he has, and I think there was like a little bit of is Lamar Mahomes going to be like the next Brady Manning thing? And it seems like that's probably not going to happen at this point. And that's maybe that it was Allen for like a year or 2. It's been Burrow for the last 2 years. I'm not sure if Burrow is just going to stay in that 2 spot. Obviously, he looks primed to, but a lot of good young talent coming up in the quarterback pipeline here. So maybe it'll just be another guy the next couple of years. It's going to be that number 2 to Mahomes. But yeah, I've been making the point that he's the best quarterback I think I've ever seen. I think Aaron Rodgers sort of had that in the mantle, but Tom Brady will maybe always have that GOAT thing unless Mahomes can run him down here. He has 5.
I think Mahomes is the most talented quarterback I've ever seen.
Yeah, easily. And it really just comes down to can he catch him in that Super Bowl department? And if he even gets close, then it's like, man, this guy might go down as the all-time great. So
there's no way, but yeah, for what the AFC was supposed to be and the quarterbacks and the impossibilities, and for them to divest and trade away Tyreek Hill and go draft a bunch of young dudes and all of those things. So it was an amazing run by the Chiefs, one of the best teams ever at this point now. The run they've been on of AFC championships and Super Bowl appearances over a 5-year period. Over a 5-year period, you can go really put that up with pretty much anyone. So interesting there. And just a good example of having a fun football team, being unafraid to do things differently, take risks. And like I said, that Tyreek Hill trade, another reason why people were doubting them. Oh, Hill was what was opening up Kelsey or whatever. But the playmaking of Patrick Mahomes is otherworldly. He is an assassin. He is a ninja, and he is a damn good quarterback. So the first time since Steve Young, somebody has a substantial cap hit and wins, and the Chiefs knew that was coming, I guess, and had to go get more starting players, knowing they had a great quarterback. They got a good offensive line in front of him, and he makes plays, man. So I think just goes to show and continue to show that there's 1,000 ways to skin the cat and get it done. And fun game, man. Well-coached team, but well-balanced team, smart. And that's, if you want to take away for the Ravens, guys have to be able to come in and play quickly when you have a quarterback on a big contract. And I guess to tie it back to Todd Monken and everything, like, it's exactly that. Your system needs to be easy to learn, easy to be able to feel confident in, and to trust guys, whether it's getting those mid-tier, second, third wave veteran free agent types that are, still able to play to a degree, or it's rookies or UDFAs or whatever it is. Like, guys need to be able to come in and play quickly and feel confident in their role and spread the ball out and allow your quarterback to feel protected and go make plays if you're going to pay a quarterback that much money. So if there's going to be some big error and big takeaway from that, it's if you want to pay a quarterback, he's not going to be Mahomes. I don't think anybody will be, but has to be protected, has to feel confident, have to be able to get guys in.
It's almost like get him more so that he has a chance of getting close. I mean, it kind of feels like that, the arms race thing. And like, I don't want them to go too crazy, but it's like, man, how can you watch that and think like, yeah, let's just go all in on defense. Like, and I like what they've done for the most part. I think they had an exceptional offseason last year, and hopefully it continues this year, and it can kind of be looked at as more than just a 1-year plan. Maybe they were building towards something, and maybe this will be a good offseason to really, I'm not going to say all in or like push their chips in or whatever that is, but maybe this could maybe complete a picture for them. For sure. And the simplicity of guys being able to come in, they lose Tyrann Mathieu, they lose Tyreek Hill, and protect Patrick Mahomes, and he goes and makes plays and keeps you in games. I mean, that was the other interesting thing. It was like Achilles in Troy when Brad Pitt walks out to go fight the massive dude, and it's just like, okay, like the Eagles are supposed to be this massive juggernaut who played a little bit of a lighter schedule. They weren't in those close games, and the Chiefs have been there. They had done that. They feel confident, and I will pat myself on the back. The reason I took the Chiefs and won some shekels was because if I had to bet on a team to be able to work out of a negative script, it would be the Chiefs. And if they were able to get the lead, they're fucking impossible to take the lead back from. Like, they will get you in the end if they have the lead. And the drive they put together was aided by the holding call, but maybe Mahomes puts it on Juju. But they took a lot of time off the clock and were in position to score and drained all the Eagles' timeouts, and were able to both play from behind and put their throat on your jugular. So fun team, fun season, a little bit of a weird year overall, but in the end, the kind of common sense team seemed to prevail, and they're set up for the long run, and it's going to be Patrick Mahomes' world for a little bit. And kind of feels like, who is not going to want to play there at this point? Andy Reid's going to come back. They have a good situation for their offensive line. DeAndre Hopkins is like tweeting stuff about them. I don't know who wouldn't want to go there right now. So Chiefs fans are living the dream. They're the chosen ones. The script is out, and script says they're going to be good for a long time. Yeah. Shout out to Arian Foster. So is that all we got for tonight, pal? I guess so. Awesome. Well, thank you guys for listening to another episode of the pod. You can follow us on social media at Podcast Beatdown on Twitter. I am at Jake Luke. That's LOUQUE. Spencer's at Ravens 4 Dummies. That is the number 4. Thanks for listening once again to this tight 40 on Todd Monken, and we will talk to you again very soon. See ya. Arrivederci.
Where is the wise man? Where is the scholar? Where is the philosopher of this age? Get down!
Baltimore!
What are they getting? Everything out of me. They gonna get a Super Bowl out of me. Believe